I decided to go into the construction industry after a summer internship I had in college. I didn't really know construction was a potential career path. My parents were not in construction and I knew nothing about it. However, I was really good at math and science and decided to go into engineering in college, and luckily found out about civil engineering and chose really a co-op position in heavy construction that I worked at through my college career. And after that first summer of placing concrete, I was hooked.
My decision to go into construction actually started most likely my junior summer of college. That summer, I actually was able to get a position with a construction company. It was the first time I actually had an internship that was sort of in that field of engineering. My uncle had actually worked for a heavy highway civil company on the Big Dig. I started that position in May of that summer. That really was the moment, I think, that I started to understand what construction really was.
There have been many moments when I was the only woman in the room and chose to sit at the table, for example, or voiced my opinion when it was probably not the easiest thing to do, or worked hard to learn the industry and build credibility, or figured out how to have a family, a career, and maintain work-life balance, which, by the way, I'm still figuring out how to do, to be honest.
The most important moment that stands out to me as a woman in construction is the day that I decided to take the risk and the leap to start my own business. I had to base it on a lot of faith and a lot of struggles, but I'm so happy where I am today. The greatest obstacle that I've faced as a woman in construction was starting a woman-owned business in a predominantly male-dominated industry. This had ripple effects from the early years of trying to secure bank funding to also then establishing key manufacturer relationships. But through it all, I held tight to my core values and moved forward. What I learned from those obstacles and challenges is take risks. Sometimes you might win and you'll be happy, but it's when you take the risk and you don't win, you gain tremendous wisdom and strength that will propel you into the future.
An obstacle early in my career came on my first job site. My first project was a multi-phase institutional lab and research facility that I joined during the enclosure and finishes stage. I was eager to learn and did not get off on the right foot with the electricians on the project. They were behind in multiple areas, and I went head-to-head with the lead foreman. After a heated debate, he told the superintendent on the project that he wasn't going to work with me any longer and that he wanted to work with someone else. I was new in my role and took this very personally. It was the first test of if I was going to make it in the industry. The superintendent on my project didn't tell me I was wrong, but told me my approach was wrong. This was an important distinguishing factor for me. He taught me about my approach and that being a female in the field, I needed to find a way to learn and build a relationship with the craft before I earned the right to question how and what they were getting done. I spent the rest of that project working and learning alongside the electrical foreman. And we got to a point where I could question how and why the work was being done in the order it was, and have a mutually respectful conversation. This advice has served me well in my career. We all want to feel valued and heard. My biggest advocate in my career is Jim Yoen, Chief Operating Officer for Mortenson. He was the first person to talk with me about how I could come back to work after having a baby 17 years ago. I had left an industry where being on a project team on a large stadium meant at least 12 hours a day, and I knew that wouldn't work for my family. Jim worked with me to figure out a way that I could come back to work on another stadium project, managing the schedule 5 days a week for 5 hours a day, and I've never looked back since. Jim is still an advocate for me in my continued career growth.
My biggest advocate in my career has been my husband. When our second child was born, he volunteered to be the stay-at-home parent so that I was able to pursue my career. I can honestly say that I wouldn't have had the success I've had in my career without his support and care for our home and our children. He keeps things running so that I can do what I do each day. And more than that, he's been a constant ear and encourager for me.
So I'm from a very blue-collar family outside of Boston, Massachusetts. My dad drove a truck, was a union truck driver. My mom was a waitress. By the time my mom was 23 years old, she had 3 small girls. I was born when she was 23, and I'm the youngest of 3 girls. Most important thing in my family was always education. In 1997, I graduated from Tulane University with an engineering degree in civil engineering. I started immediately for a construction company on the Big Dig, heavy highway civil, as a assistant field engineer, call it, again, on a project site down on State Street to North Street. Within a year and a half of being with this local company, I decided to adventure a little bit just for another company. My boyfriend at the time, now husband, had actually been an intern at Turner over the summer. And he said, "You should apply to Turner. They're really nice people. You'll love it." So 24 years later, I'm still with Turner. I started with Turner as an assistant project manager, then a project manager, then an account manager, went on to be an operations manager for special projects, a general manager for special projects, which gratefully I became a vice president as I became a general manager for special projects. In 2012, I was asked by the company if I would come and work for headquarters. I was vice president of our risk management team, reporting directly to our incredible CEO, Peter Davern. I was able to travel the country, and in some instances the globe, helping and being a resource to our people. So I went from building projects to managing projects to helping build teams to then actually being a resource to our projects across the country. It was an incredible experience. I was able to use not only my undergrad, but I had done my MBA at night as I worked for Turner. So putting both business and construction together was incredible. And in 2015, my family joined me in Northern California. I've been fortunate to be the general manager, the senior vice president for NorCal, as well as now the senior vice president for Southern California and Northern California. I'm part of a leadership team that's incredible. The journey has been a blast. I highly recommend it, but it has never been a bore.
My journey in the construction industry started really in college. I didn't know construction was an option as a career. I went into engineering because I was good at math and science, and really feel lucky that I found construction. After I learned about civil engineering, I chose to do a co-op in heavy construction, and I loved it so much that I stayed for graduate school, and I did a building construction degree in grad school and got to shadow home building superintendents, so a lot of field experience. Out of grad school, I joined DPR Construction, and it's been a great journey at DPR. I started as a project engineer. I moved to a project manager. I then went to a project executive. And after that, I became a business unit leader, and I ran our DPR Richmond office, as well as co-led our DPR Reston, Northern Virginia office. And then I got the pleasure of working on the Meta account and started as the lead PX of the RVA data center site, which led me to the account position that I have now. I've had the pleasure of working in multiple core markets: healthcare, life science, commercial, as well as advanced tech and data centers. I love to solve problems, but I also love the people we work with. I love being in the field with the craft. I love building teams, and it's amazing what we can accomplish together.
My advice for women coming into the industry is to celebrate other women. Find ways to encourage and lift each other up.
My best advice for women coming into the industry is to not get discouraged by the lack of diversity in this industry. Instead, I view it as an opportunity to do even more and see it as a call to be part of the change.
Stay a while, to commit to look for opportunities within the construction industry.
Find your voice and make sure you speak up and contribute, because you matter and you have a lot to offer.
Go for it, girl. You got this. Be fearless in everything you do.